So last week I got a package and it was such an amazing thing to receive that I wanted to make a quick video about it. And I apologise in advance for the lighting being terrible. It's dark, I've got this light coming down here. I don't know, I'm not good at this whole lighting thing yet, but I'm working on it. Okay, so a package arrived for me, and let me show you what was in it. A bunch of books. Probably expect that from me since I'm the book guy, but a bunch of books, old books, really interesting old books like this. 10,000 Public Enemies by Courtney Riley Cooper. Here we go. The Happy Traveller by Frank Tatchell. It's another one that we've got here. Ooh, a Mensa Analysis in History. Mensa. I remember when I was a kid we used to be like, oh, he's hardly Mensa material, which was a very polite British way of saying he's dumb. What an interesting collection of books. Why did they come to me? Why do I have them? Well, it is all thanks to a very remarkable man who I owe an awful debt of thanks to, and his name is Ian Dickerson. Ian Dickerson, you might be familiar with if you are a nerd like me, but he directed the 2007 Randall and Hopkirk Deceased remake, which I used to love. Randall and Hopkirk. I'm super into these 60s shows. Like my love in life is The Saint. So Ian Dickerson is the man who directed that reboot, which was actually really cool, and I really dug it. And he's also written a number of books about the fictional character The Saint and the fictional character Sherlock Holmes, of which I am a huge fan of both. The fact that my middle child is called Mycroft should hopefully give you a bit of an indication about how seriously I take Sherlock Holmes. But The Saint, oh, The Saint, Simon Templar, the Robin Hood of modern crime. I can say without a fact that The Saint is the biggest, most influential fictional character in my life. I mean, I'm a James Bond fan. I'm a huge James Bond fan. I mean, look at me. I've got the watch strap and I'm wearing the short sleeve shirt. You can tell I love James Bond, but The Saint has always been where it's at to me. I've always loved old-fashioned adventure stories. I've always loved movies like Indiana Jones and Ghostbusters and, of course, all the James Bond movies. And I remember when I was in my teenage years, my father said to me, oh, I used to read about a character called The Saint. You ought to look into him. And I remembered The Saint because I remembered a TV show that I used to watch as a kid that was on Saturday mornings, whatever. They were all reruns with Roger Moore, and he was The Saint, you know, this beautiful Volvo. And one of my father's friends had all these toys, and one of them was a little Volvo with the Saint logo on the front. And then you had Return of the Saint with Ian Ogilvy, and he had the Jaguar, and I remember the toy. So I was aware of the Saint, but I always thought the Saint was just a stick figure. And my father was like, oh no, the Saint is a fictional character you might like. So I honestly think it was my 18th birthday, my father gave me this book, The Saint in New York by Leslie Charteris. And it is, I mean, let's see, it was published I think in 1935 it was first published. But it was by far from the first Saint book. In fact, they've got other Saint books, and there are literally like 20 of them. But I didn't know much about the Saint, apart from there being a TV show about him. And the Saint, I discovered, was a crime fighter who, you know, did the things that were outside of the scope of the police and the judicial system. So, you know, this book opened up with, you know, a mobster escaping justice because of a crooked judge, and so the Saint guns him down in the streets of New York City because he had come to New York City to clean it up. And I blame this book, which means I blame my father, for absolutely everything that occurred to me, because at 18 years old I read this book and I was like, one day I shall go to New York City and clean it up. Turns out Rudy Giuliani did that before I could arrive, so can't take any credit myself, but I did make it to New York. I mean, seriously, if you ever believe in the law of attraction, you know, I read this book and I said, one day I'm going to live in New York City. And, you know, I ended up moving to New York and living in America, and this is my life now. It's amazing, and it's all down to this book. So The Saint is precious to me. and I would collect all of the Saint books I could possibly find avidly. In fact, my favourite book, out of all the books I own, my favourite book is this one, which is a 1930 edition of what's the 18th impression. That's how popular they were, because this book was first published in 1930. It's 1948 18th impression, but this is The Last Hero by Leslie Charteris. Later on he changed the name, because they changed the names to things starting with the Saint, so it became The Saint Closes the Case. But this is a really remarkable, beautiful book written in 1930, where Leslie Charteris, as a young Chinese Englishman, saw the devastation that the First World War had wrought, and saw that the way politics was going was leading to the Second World War, and he wrote a book in which the Saint tries to prevent that. And unlike the latest Saint books that resembled the television show more, where you just had like the Saint getting up to adventures, the early Saint books all had a cast of characters. There was his best friend Norman Kent and Peter Quentin, and his girlfriend Patricia Home, who Norman Kent was madly in love with. And the climax of this book is just a beautiful, beautiful scene of sacrifice by one of the characters. And that word even comes into it. There's a saying in this book that has become one of the sayings that I live my life by and I cling to, and it is, nothing is won without sacrifice. And that's true. Nothing is ever won without sacrifice. And this book means so much to me, but the character of the Saint means so much to me. It was what inspired me to move to America, but also it was what inspired me to write stories. And I used to write stories about a character called Adventure Eddie, who was going to be the modern day version of the Saint, except he was ginger. And these are, when you start off writing, especially if you're a guy, you write terrible, terrible books, because they're all basically semi-autobiographical. Oh. Let me just switch on my alarm there. Okay, so this book was about a plucky ginger hero who goes to Paris and has wonderful adventures, which was all based on me being a plucky English ginger kid who goes to Paris and has lots of adventures. And it was very much inspired by the Saint. And I wrote this, and I published it, and I can't remember how it happened. But I was looking online at stuff, and I remember in every single Saint book, even this one. So remember, this book was published in 1948. They always come back with what's for the sign of the Saint will come back. And there used to be the Saint Club, and for some reason, when I wrote Adventure Eddie, I reached out to the Saint Club, and somebody responded. And that somebody was a gentleman called Ian Dickerson, and that's the Ian Dickerson I mentioned earlier. And he and I chatted back and forth, and considering I was just some complete random weirdo who had reached out to him to be like, oh, I love the Saint, blah, 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 he was incredibly polite to me, and he ended up letting me mail him a copy of this book, and he read it. He's probably one of 4 people in the entire world who's ever read it. That's not true these days. I've sold a few copies, but no, he read it when, you know, I think the only other person who'd read it was my dad. And he said, it was okay. And I don't know, Ian, if you're out there watching this ever, you saying okay inspired me to keep writing, and I wrote the next book in the Adventure Eddie saga that never became a saga, but watch this space, Bootleg Boys, and I sent it to you, and Ian said it was much better. And I can honestly say that the fact that the guy who responded from the Saint Club read my book and said that it was okay is probably one of the major reasons why I ended up continuing writing and why I have done the things that I've done. And so Ian, I couldn't possibly thank you enough for taking the time to read the stupid adventure stories that young me wrote. I really, really appreciate it. But it's not even there that Ian's wonderful, wonderful gift to me continued, because years later, the estate of Leslie Charteris, or I'm not quite sure why that works, was republishing all of the Saint books with beautiful new covers on Amazon and stuff like that, and they were getting people to write the forwards to them, and they had people like, I think it was Roger Moore write an intro to one, and Ian Ogilvy write an intro to one, and so, you know, these were big people. But Leslie Charteris was a prolific author, and then he would then later farm out the publishing of books and the writing of books to other people. So there were many books, and you know, Roger Moore can only write so many forwards to books. So Ian Dickinson reached out to me and asked me if I'd like to write the introduction or the foreword to a book. So I got to write the foreword to Send for the Saint, which was a 1978 compendium of a couple of stories based on episodes of the TV show. They weren't even written by Leslie Charteris. However, for me to have the opportunity to like, this is a saint book. This is a legitimate saint book. This is a saint book. And you open it up and it has Send for the Saint, foreword by Roland Humer. I got my name in a saint book. So already Ian is like giving me my career as a writer, and then I got to have my name in a saint book. I don't know, you probably think I'm crazy, but for me that was like amazing. I treasure it. So turns out that this package of wonderful books that I got, I'd actually spoken to Ian about sending me months earlier, but you know how things are with this pandemic and stuff like that. They were sent from Ian Dickinson to me because they were going through the estate of Leslie Charteris and his collection of books and things, and they were looking for homes for them. And so Ian very kindly took the time and effort to send me these books that were from the bookshelves of Leslie Charteris himself. So in this book here, 10,000 Public Enemies, inside is an inscription to Leslie Charteris, with all good wishes to the saint from Dat Old Debbie, Courtney Riley Cooper. I have books from Leslie Charteris's own bookshelves now in my possession, and it's so amazing. Ian even included this, which is Saint Magazines Incorporated. It is the checkbook for the Saint magazine from Palm Beach, Florida. My mind is completely blown, and it's amazing. It's amazing. Something that has been so influential to my life, I now like own a piece of, and a path that was being so important to my life was opened up to me thanks to the saint. And yeah, I just wanted to make this video just to give Ian a shout out and to say thank you so much for the kindness that you have given me and the belief that you had in me back when I was stupid and sending random things off to people. It has been such an amazing privilege to be friends with somebody who is part of this incredible world that means so much to me. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say in this video. But yeah, this collection of books, amazing. I'm blown away, absolutely blown away. Right, I'm gonna wrap this up. I have to go and feed my kids, because apparently that's what you have to do with kids these days, feed them. And I didn't even get to the good part yet. I was going to get it onto the drinks cabinet shaped like a globe. I'll do that in another video. I think I'll make another video. Right, but in the meantime, thanks so much for watching this, and I'll chat to you all later. Bye. Thanks so much for watching that video. Don't forget, I have sold nearly 67,000 copies of my novels, so if you want to find out a bit more about that, don't forget to click the subscribe button.